Okay, hello, Year 9. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, whatever time you listen to this. This is lesson 2 of the ancient medicine booklet. I know that some of your teachers, particularly Miss Matt and Miss Green, have already sent out deadlines, and they'd sent out the deadline for lesson 1 and 2 to be ready for the 15th. So hence why we're releasing this second video now. But after that, the third lesson will be released by another member of the department the following week as well. So obviously a quick deadline for these first 2 lessons. This lesson 2 is hugely important. It's really important. It is this kind of what we're going to look at today formulates the basis of a lot of the medicine course, but it is also quite a straightforward and quick lesson as well. So the content is really important. The lesson itself is quite quick and quite straightforward. So what we're looking at is the natural ideas that the Greeks had about medicine. Now, obviously, in the first lesson, we were identifying the coexistence of ideas in ancient Greece and ancient Greek medicine. So the idea of supernatural and natural, and the fact they coexisted. And we used the temple of the Asclepion, the temple of Asclepius. We used that as our kind of case study to look at how the Greeks used both supernatural and natural, how they both coexisted together. From what we learned from that was that supernatural was still massively important to the Greeks. The gods played a huge part and a huge role in their lives. There were elements of natural. What today's lesson is going to tell you and show us is that actually the natural ideas started to become the dominant theories behind disease and illness in ancient Greece, and would continue into ancient Rome as well. So we're looking at the theory of the 4 humours. Now, if you watched the lesson 1 video, you will notice that at the start of the video I talked about the specification. So if we just scroll up very quickly to look at that again, this is, like I said, this is what the GCSE exam boards give out to different subjects, and this is the one for medicine, or part of it. The theory of the 4 humours is on here. So it is a really significant part, because although the theory develops in ancient Greece 2,500 years ago, it's still used for thousands of years later as well. We're also going to mention Hippocrates, or Hippocrates if it's the Greek pronunciation, although next week's lesson is based mainly on his ideas. The theory of the 4 humours is just one of his theories, his ideas, or he's been accredited with it. It was quite popular at the time, but we generally accredit it to Hippocrates. But you'll look at him in more detail next time. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to basically understand what the theory is, and then why is it important. Okay, so just a little bit of reading here. So as we know, the ancient Greeks were great thinkers. They were constantly questioning the world around them. Natural philosophers began to believe that everything in the world was made up of 4 elements, and including the human body. We know the 4 elements, earth, water, air, and fire. So natural philosophers were basically people who just asked questions about the world around them. They weren't really that interested in the gods and the supernatural, so mainly the natural. So the 4 elements is what they come up with, and we are all familiar with the 4 elements. This is what makes up the world. We know that's not the case, but this is the kind of simplified version. So this theory becomes really popular, particularly when they start to consider that the human body also must be made up of 4 elements. Now, the Greeks don't argue that the body is made up of earth, water, air, and fire, but they use that theory to come up with something else, which is what they call the humours, with the 4 of them. So, as we've already said, Hippocrates, he starts to develop the idea that the body is made up of 4 humours, and he bases them on the 4 elements. Okay. Now, his theory, although we know is not correct, became hugely popular at the time because it made logical sense, and I'll explain that to you now. So I'm going to go through, if you look at the diagram here on the left, and I'm going to start to talk through the 4 humours. When you first look at this diagram, It does look quite complicated, but it all makes sense soon enough. So just look at the inner circle here. You've got the 4 elements here: air, fire, earth, water. And we'll start off with the 4 humours. So first of all, we'll go here, air and blood. So blood is one of the humours. So obviously we know that our body has blood, and the Greeks knew that. If you cut your arm, blood will come out. So they realised that blood was inside the body, and this is one of the humours that they had. They also, though, believed that blood was connected to the season of spring. It's quite warm, it's quite moist in spring, the air pressure changes, nosebleeds are common when air pressure changes, and linking generally to what spring is like. So they started this idea that blood is based on the season of spring, which is linked to air, and the conditions are warm and moist. Second humour is yellow bile. Now, we would probably today call yellow bile vomit or sick. Yeah. So this is the second humour. Your body is made up of yellow bile. And what they did is they linked that to summer and the fact that it's warm and dry in summer. How often have you felt like when you want to be sick, you feel that kind of, I don't know about you, but I feel a kind of burning sensation inside my stomach, inside my chest, and that kind of, before you actually are going to vomit. And the Greeks would have felt that as well. They were humans like you and I am. So they decided that yellow bile must link to heat, and when it's really hot, summer. Another humour, the third one, is phlegm. Now we all know what phlegm is, and we all know when we get phlegm, we're more likely to get phlegm in the winter when it's cold. You have a blocked up nose, yeah, the sinuses are running. It's a logical connection, isn't it? That phlegm is attached to winter. The element is water. Water is cold. Yeah. So again, you can see that kind of logical connection. The fourth humour is black bile. We don't really know exactly what the Greeks meant by black bile, but we kind of believe that it was some sort of dried blood that would have been coughed up. Obviously, if you're coughing up dry blood, then you should go see the doctor. It's obviously a serious condition. But this is one of the other humours that the Greeks believed your body was made up of. And again, the last season is autumn, earth, cold and dry. Okay, so they're the 4 humours: blood, yellow bile, phlegm, black bile. So that is what the Greeks believed your body was made up of. Now, you can see how they link it to the seasons, they link it to the elements, and they link it to the conditions as well. So that's the initial theory. But what they did, and what Hippocrates argues, is they start to develop ways in which you can be treated, and they start to use the 4 humours to diagnose illness. Obviously, a diagnosis is when the doctor says to you, this is what's wrong with you. So you tell the doctor your symptoms, and then they give you a diagnosis. Yeah? So if you went to the doctor and you said, I keep being sick. Yeah, let's imagine we're in ancient Greece. I keep being sick. Well, the doctor's going to say to you, someone like Hippocrates is going to say, you keep being sick. Well, you've probably got, it's probably yellow bile that's causing you problems. Yeah? What that Greek doctor will probably assume is that, and hopefully, if the theory works, it's the summer. Yeah? So he'll say, well, it is the summer, so it's more likely that you've got too much yellow bile. Alternatively, if you are having nosebleeds or anything like that, they're going to say you got too much blood. Same with phlegm, same with black bile. So Hippocrates starts to decide that the body, with the 4 humours, needs to be kept in balance. Okay, you need to have the same amount of each humour in your body at the same time to be healthy. So if you happen to have more of one humour, too much yellow bile in your system, or too much phlegm, or too much blood, your humours are out of balance. There's an imbalance in the humours, which is why you're ill. Okay? So that is the kind of key thing. One key thing to know is that the Greeks did not know or understand the circulation of the blood. They didn't know that the heart pumped blood around the body like we do. Okay? They believed that you had an oversupply of blood, or an oversupply of yellow bile, phlegm, and black bile. So the only way to get to treat you was to make sure that your humours were in balance. And the only way to do that is to get rid of one of them. So, based on the theory, the ancient Greeks start to develop treatments. Okay, so here you have the four humours, and here you just have a couple of treatments that the Greeks would have prescribed you should you be ill. So, let's have a look at this one. Drinking hot drinks. Okay, so think about which humour that is going to help get rid of. It's phlegm. Yeah, even today, if you've got a cold, people often say to you, you should have something hot. You should have a Lemsip. You should have hot Ribena or whatever. Whatever it is, or you should eat a curry. Something hot to kind of like sweat it out. Okay, so that first one, drinking hot drinks, goes with phlegm. So you can just write this in. I'm just going to draw an arrow for now. Okay, so have a look at the other treatments here and see if you can figure out where they would go. Not everyone has a treatment. Okay, so pause the video now and have a go, and then we'll go through it. Okay, right, let's go through it. So bloodletting, unsurprisingly, is blood. And this, to be honest, will become one of the most popular treatments. In fact, in the Middle Ages, they will often just go straight to bloodletting. So this involves just cutting you on your arm or certain areas on your body and letting out some blood, in order for your humours to get back in balance. Or they would use leeches to suck away the blood as well. Vomiting, obviously, links to yellow bile. Yeah, you've got too much yellow bile, so you need to get it out. So make yourself be sick. Purging. If you don't know what purging is, it basically is to get rid of things in your system, which could be both ends. So you could have natural laxatives, or again, any way to make you be sick. So purging goes with yellow bile. Yeah, it's also going to go with black bile as well. Avoiding red meat, again, blood. Yeah, it's to do with blood. So think about, you avoid red meat, which means you're not going to have too much blood in your system. Yeah, so avoiding things like steak, that kind of thing. Okay, so that gives you a general idea how the theory works. It doesn't always match up. It doesn't always work, the four humours. But a lot of the time, the reason why it became so popular is because, in winter, you did have phlegm, and in summer, you do feel more sick. Yeah, so sometimes it did make those logical connections. Okay, so what you need to do once you've got an idea about what the theory is, and what I recommend you do is you do go through the reading here, because there is a lot of information that I appreciate that you've just had to listen to. And there's quite a lot going on. Just go over the reading again, make sure you understand the theory. Yeah. And the last activity here is, why was it significant then? So I've kind of already alluded to why it was important. And we want to use the petal structure, which we've introduced to you this year. I've kind of changed this up because just so I can write on it. Your document has lines for you to write on if you printed it. But, if you haven't, just delete the lines. This is in a text box, so you can just write within this box. Yeah. So obviously the first thing we want to do is explain why it was significant, and we've got 2 bullet points here. This is what you get on a GCSE question. They're called stimulus points. The difference to supernatural thinking and the logical thought behind the theory. So you can use these to kind of help you answer the question. The first bit, the main reason why the theory of the four humours is so significant in medicine is because, and I'm going to say, of its logical ideas. Yeah, that's my main point. I'm not going to do all this for you. But, for example, to make that link. Many people, the theory made sense as in the summer when it was really hot. You're more likely to have more yellow bile in your system. Yeah, there's the evidence. It's meant that the theory is logical. Yeah, as a result, and explain, and so on and so forth. And therefore, just explaining why it's so logical. Yeah, you don't have to do that example. You can do another one. The idea that it made more sense than supernatural thinking. But just try to provide as many examples as you possibly can. Obviously, the last thing you need to do is the lesson summary. Yeah, so you've got obviously the first part of the lesson summary. You've got 3 bullet points that you want to do, and we can just use the learning objective here. Why was it so important to medicine? So your first bullet point might link to, it might basically explain what the theory of the four humours was. Yeah, based on the 4 elements, based on the body being in balance. And that's it. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Thank you.